alright.
Hi, what's up, everybody? My name is Desmond Thorne. I am a programmer for NewFest, and I'm so excited to be here with some of our Black and I'm so excited to be here with some of our Black, queer, and trans filmmakers who have work in the festival, some excellent work in the festival, and I'm so excited to have a panel about centering Black, queer, and trans voices in film. And I'm so excited for them to introduce themselves to y'all. So here they are. Look at all these beauties. Look at all this melanin. Yes. Oh, this makes me so happy. So I'm gonna have y'all introduce yourselves in the order that you're in within the grid, starting with Robin.
Hey everybody, my name is Robin Cloud and I'm the writer and director of $2 and I'm based in LA.
Awesome.
By way of Brooklyn.
Yes. Yes.
Peace and love, everybody. My name is Sheldon D. Brown. I'm an actor and co-writer in the film Cicada. And much love to all my highly melanated folks out there from Chicago.
Yes. Oh, Kai, you're on mute.
There we go. So sorry.
Yes, no worries.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kai Thomas. I'm the director, producer, and DP of Queenie. And I am a documentary DP by way of Chicago as well as New York and have roots in Miami.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. My name is Terrance Daye. I'm a poet and filmmaker from Long Island, New York. A lot of my work reimagines Black male identity and destigmatizes mental health within communities of color. And I'm the writer and director of Hyphen Chip, a visual poem.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nyala Moon, and I am the writer, director, and co-star of my short film, One Last Deal.
Yes.
Peace, everyone. My name is Seyi, Adebanjo, they, them pronouns. I'm the director of Honor Black Trans Remix. And I am mostly a documentary filmmaker, a Orisha practitioner, and an organizer. We're about New York City from Lagos, Nigeria.
Awesome. And I have to say, before we dig in, all of the projects that you created and are in were absolutely no-brainers for this festival. Like instant checks, yes. There was no like, maybe. These are all excellent, excellent works. And I think you all should be so proud of the work that you've done. It is absolutely incredible. And I'm so excited to have it be unleashed on the world. So my first question for all of you, in terms of representation, like when was the first time you actually saw yourself like fully represented on screen as a Black, queer, and trans person? I think for me, it was definitely seeing Marlon Briggs, oh my God, Tongues Untied. I was like, I had a huge brain fart there. But Tongues Untied, I think, is such an incredible piece in terms of like mixing poetry and just really getting and digging into the Black male experience from all angles in a way that I had not seen before. And I think it's just an incredible, incredible piece, and it just feels so incredibly authentic. And he is such a strong voice that we lost way too soon. I often think about, you know, what he would have been doing these days with everything that's happening now. And I would definitely go with Tongues Untied for myself. And what about y'all?
I can go next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, this is kind of shady, but where I first saw representation of myself as like a Black trans woman would have to be on Maury, when in the 90s when Maury used to have Is It a Woman or a Man segment were offensive, but my like, you know, young mind was just like, oh my God, they're so beautiful. I love them. And, you know, like that's where I like saw myself, but it also like brought a bigger question to me of like, which led me into filmmaking. Like, what are these women's actual lives? You know, who loves them? What do they do? What do they like? What makes them sad? So that was my beginning of seeing trans women from Maury. And it kind of just exploded and expanded into me thinking more critically about my community.
Absolutely.
To Nyala's point, I think that the first time I probably encountered myself a bunch of times, but when you're still young and you're still trying to figure out who you are, you like what you encounter and what you think is yourself, right? Isn't always that thing. So I remember watching Will and Grace and thinking like, oh, there's like a gay character and having a response to that. But it probably wasn't until I saw Noah's Ark, and again, this is like a kid, that I ever really saw like Black gay men just being. But at the time, it scared me probably more than anything. Like I was like, should I be watching this? Is this okay? And so I feel like it's just like a complicated journey to those first encounters.
Absolutely. I used to sneak watch Noah's Ark when I was younger. Back in the day, when you were having like the cable remote, I would watch it and I would hear someone coming, because I grew up in a pretty religious household, because I was like, ooh, I don't know if they would like me watching this gay adult content. So I would watch, and if I heard some footsteps coming, I would change the channel twice so that if they got cute and press that last channel button, they wouldn't know I was watching Logo. They still wouldn't know. So, I absolutely agree. And I love Patrick's film Punks as well. I don't know if y'all have seen Punks, but that's such a great exploration of queer Black friendship that I honestly don't think we see a lot outside of a lot of his work, actually. And I want to see more and more of that. I know, Robin, I think you're about to say something.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that in 1995, this movie came out called The Incredibly True Adventures of Two Girls in Love. And that was like, ooh, that movie sent me over. So it was about an interracial couple, one Black girl, one white girl. Like there's a class difference between them. The Black girl's the rich one, and the white girl's like has working class lesbian moms. It was just their like little love story. And I remember, I was older at the time, but I just remember being like, oh my God, that was the first real, I'm trying to think back, but I feel like that was the first movie that I saw where I was like, oh my God,
Robin, that's
lesbians on screen and kissing, and like, I don't know, it was great.
Yeah.
And like Ari Parker as a Black lesbian in that film too, just like, okay, sis, you finna give us the versatility.
She was so progressive.
I think truly, I think for me, it probably was like Pariah, the reason. I think that film came out in like 2011.
Yeah.
And just like excellent film. But in the documentary space, I think the first time I saw myself represented was in Yoruba Richan's The New Black film. Where she followed some Black lesbians and Black queer folks in the DMV area. So
that's amazing. I love Pariah all day, every day. That movie is absolutely fantastic. Love me some Dee Reese. And I would love to see, I didn't see that last movie she came out with. Did y'all see that? I heard some things.
I didn't get through it.
Yeah, it made me sad.
I actually watched it twice because Mary J. Blige got nominated for Oscar, and I was like, did I miss something? Like, did I miss the moment?
Oh, Mudbound.
Good. I haven't seen
that was good. No,
there was another one
photographer. Who was that?
There's one with like
Hathaway, I think, is in that film, right?
Yeah, Anne Hathaway's in that.
Anne Hathaway, That's Mudbound was great. What are you talking about, Sheldon?
I'm sorry, y'all. It just wasn't. I watched it twice. I watched it twice too, because I was like, maybe I'm missing something that everyone's getting, but it stayed with the white people for too long. It was just, I don't know. We can talk more about it. For me, though, it's really interesting because I grew up without cable, so I missed all of the queer stuff. Like, I didn't have Logo and everything. So when I was little, I would watch movies and actually think the actor who played that character was gay. And I was like, oh, of course they wouldn't put straight people in gay roles. That don't make any sense. So then when I watched like Life, the movie Life, and I saw Bernie Mac and Miguel Nunez and that relationship, I was like, oh my God, Bernie Mac is gay. I did not know this. And this is like my little 6-year-old, 7-year-old self who probably shouldn't have been watching Life. But they had this whole big like scene where they're in the Cotton Club and there's like this imagined like space of this club, and they're all having a great time. But Miguel Nunez is in drag singing this song, this beautiful like jazz song, and I love jazz. And so I was like, it totally blew my mind because I thought Bernie Mac was gay, and it was like also this like jazz scene that was happening, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gay and I love jazz. And this is what I felt sad.
Yes, I have to revisit that movie. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I was just talking to someone about it.
It's so good.
Yeah. I was talking about the song that Casey and JoJo sings, and then he reminded me that R. Kelly wrote that song, and I was like, man, God damn it. Man knows how to write a song, but he's the worst fucking person. Oh Lord. Sheyi, what about you?
Tongues Untied is always on my top list in terms of representation. But if I really dig back to look at like an African representation, I had seen this clip of this, there's many different ways to call her. Some people say, she's a trans woman. Some people say she's gender non-conforming. But she was this Igbo person from Nigeria, and her name is Area Scatter. And so there was a clip of her that came out of this 1970s film looking at musicians in Nigeria. And it just talked about how she went from being a worker pre-war to then being a musician and coming out as Area Scatter and just being in women attire all the time. And that really just stuck with me to see like not only an African representation of gender nonconformity, but someone from Nigeria. And so it's just like this, I think 5-minute clip of her that exists and no one knows where she's at to this day, but that just always stuck with me of seeing like, oh, from the continent, and just got me excited and doing more research and creating my own work of looking at gender fluidity.
From man, amazing. Y'all put me onto some stuff today. I love this. This is amazing. So in that vein, who are some Black filmmakers, queer or even not queer, who inspire your process as a filmmaker today?
Honestly, and I feel like this is not like, because they're not a filmmaker, but Toni Morrison's work always influences me. I always say like the prologue of The Bluest Eye like taught me everything I know about filmmaking. And so I always find myself looking a lot to literature and poetry, sometimes more before film, to kind of figure out how I want to express myself. Because again, I think, as I said this before, but I think a lot of times like trying to tell stories of experiences that lie on the margin, they don't sometimes always fit into that traditional 3-act structure that we're used to seeing in film and in TV. And sometimes you really have to just kind of like break that to kind of say multiple things at once to kind of get at an experience that other people might not relate to as easily. So and I think for me, like I said, a lot of other works, theater, literature, poetry, achieve that more satisfyingly for me.
Absolutely. I think Kai, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of like OG Black queer documentarians, so like Yvonne Welbon, who is actually executive producer on Queenie. She had a phenomenal documentary about Ruth Ellis, who was a 100-year-old Black lesbian who lived in Detroit. So that kind of was a blueprint for me when I was going and making Queenie, to have that as a reference point. Thomas Allen Harris and his work around photography and his documentation as well, those two folks. And then on the contemporary end, like my friends like Mary Ellis Diaz, and then Andrew, who has his film Plus that's playing in the Black Shorts block. He's just phenomenal.
So good.
So it's really great to be able to have influences that are both documentary and narrative, and like intergenerational as well. There's something you can learn from someone who's like 4 years old about how they're seeing themselves and how they're articulating themselves, in the same way I can learn something from Queenie, who's like 74 years old. And also just like, I think it's really important as filmmakers to surround yourself with folks who aren't artists or who like don't believe themselves to be artists, because honestly, they end up having more insights than traditional filmmakers, in my opinion, in terms of like approaching the craft.
Absolutely. Robin?
I would say the first film, one of the early films I saw was Daughters of the Dust by Julie Dash, right? And I was just like, wow, like this is it. I mean, it's very long. It's 2 hours. you know, but it's so beautiful and so cinematic. And even though I'm a comedian and I work in like dark comedy kind of space, but I love historical drama. And so like the costuming and just being, my family's from South Carolina. So I was just very excited to see that. So her work is always been like a sort of foundational inspiration for me. And then also Sheldon Daye, who's, you know, takes the like contemporary young casual vibes with like Watermelon Woman and stuff. And those were the two artists at the time that really inspired me.
Absolutely. And side note, for a quick second, speaking of Cheryl, have y'all been watching Lovecraft Country? She directed an episode of it.
Yes.
It was great. It was so good. It just hit.
What episode did she direct?
She
was
directed
the one after the water, right?
It was the one.
6.
Yeah, it was the one where you find out Michael K. Williams is queer, and the one where Homegirl gets the potion where she could be the white woman.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So good, so good. I love seeing her.
My only critique in that episode is that I wish they would have played stilettos, pumps in the club at the very end, and you wouldn't really know what was happening until it happened.
Yeah.
And then you would have been like,
yeah. That's true. Dark. That's true. That's so true. That's so true. And did you have any Black filmmakers that inspire your process, Sheldon?
Yeah. So actually, 2 writers that are so amazing, contemporary writers, Katori Hall and Terrell Alvin McCraney.
Mm-hmm.
They both, Moonlight absolutely changed my life. And I was always a fan of Terrell Alvin McCraney as a playwright before his works got adapted for the film. But what I love about, I've seen him perform and I've read his work. What I love about him is that he is so unabashed and fearless about taking up space. And centering his stories around his unique voice and experiences, and not letting it be clouded by like, oh, white people somehow came in and messed it all up and everything. But it's like, if I gotta make this space for anybody, it's for myself. And Katori Hall as well, not only because she captures like really beautiful relationships. Like if anyone is not watching P-Valley right now, please watch P-Valley. You have the lead is a Black, queer, non-binary individual in Mississippi, in a small town in Mississippi, and they have it's such beautiful writing, it's such beautiful relationships, and it just like as a writer, as a performer, it's like these are the stories that we really, really need. Especially right now. So if you haven't watched P-Valley, treat yourself. Oh, and
Absolutely.
David Makes Man.
Yes. And I like what you said about like taking space, because I'm very much aware of like, I'm sure you all are too, like Black work that seems like it was made for white people to digest and like, so that they can learn something, versus work that's really for us, by us, trying to nurture us and our community. And I'm way more of a fan of that kind of work and seeing just more and more of that happening. Nyla, did you have one?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what Sheldon said with Terrell. I really, really love Barry Jenkins, and I like always tell people that the films I want to make are love stories. So when I saw Moonlight, I kind of cried in the movie theater because I'm not gay, but I related to the story of just like seeing like Black complicated love, but still Black love and Black like just Black complexity. And also his style. I love Barry Jenkins' style, especially with Medicine for Melancholy and If Beale Street Could Talk, like how he just like shows Black people on screen in love, and it's very like lush and vivid. And not a Black filmmaker, but also a POC filmmaker, Wong Kar-wai. I absolutely love his films. I love the way he frames. I love the way, I think, I hate to say it, but Barry Jenkins and him kind of have like a slight similar aesthetic of the way they can like, they visually show love. without it being like in your face, you know, like the looks, the framing, the angles.
Absolutely.
So I am just a huge fan of their work, and I love the way that they tell stories, and it inspires me to like tell love stories like that. And yeah.
It's funny you say that because I think Barry Jenkins has said how much he like really is inspired by Wong Kar-wai's work, and you're right, you can absolutely see it. And like, you know, though we are all incredibly, incredibly exhausted of slave narratives, I'm very excited to see Barry's approach to the book Underground Railroad. That book like shook me. It is short, but it is so, I feel like it has a certain authenticity that I haven't read in a very long time. And I've only seen stills from the production of Underground Railroad, and I'm already just like, I'm already here for it. I'm already here for like the textures that he's putting into it, and just like, you know, the love and care and work that he's gonna put into doing that right for us, again, for us. So I'm so excited to see that.
Yeah,
so
and
thrilled.
I think especially with the way he handles like trauma, like he handles it so delicately, where it's like real, but it's just very like a delicate way. It's not as like grotesque, you know, as gritty as like some filmmakers do when they like portray like addiction or domestic violence. So I really appreciate that, because for me, I almost feel like he's thinking of the audience, you know, and like how they are going to react to it. Totally. And a quote that he said, which I love, and I always try to like bring it to anything I do. He wants to bring the art house to the hood, and I just love that saying, because like it's a very elegant way of like handling like, you know, like Black experiences.
Absolutely. And Seyi, anyone for you?
I'm gonna go with Usman Sembeh. You know, they call him the father of African cinema, and one of the reasons I really just enjoy the way he makes films and other African filmmakers is the pacing of it. Like there's this natural pacing, and it's like looking at how the culture and the environment affects the characters and the story. And especially when people put spirituality and sexuality into it, I think it just honors stories in different ways than we get in the US. And then there's just also like a natural pacing. Like it's not always rushed. There's some films that are rushed, but it's just like things can slowly unfold. And I think that's really important, because as people, we slowly unfold, and it's important to move at the speed of life versus like the speed of technology that's always quickly moving.
Absolutely.
So I love him. And of course, you know, there's the Julie Dash and the lush that she did in her film, and also Lily Marlon T. Riggs. And, you know, the current project I'm working on, Afro Mystic, is really an ode to Tongues Untied, because the way he's able to bring in just people's lives, our culture, the poetry, the performance into it in this 48-minute documentary is just like mind-blowing. And so, yeah, those are the folks I would say.
It's amazing. And I just recently watched Ethnic Notions. We will get into some stereotypes and how those are represented in a little bit, but that film is like super, super important, just to, as a reminder of like the ways that, you know, media, art, iconography, how those representations can be so dangerous, and how, you know, we use our work to really just like spin that, reverse it, dead it, you know, representing ourselves the way that we truly see ourselves. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm wondering if there are any dope Black film communities that you're a part of that you'd like to uplift. It could be people you work with who are on like your teams that you work with, or just people that you kind of like tend to surround yourself in the Black film community.
Sorry, Desmond, do you mind repeating the question? I'm having some internet troubles over here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Basically, are there any like dope film Black communities that you're a part of that you'd like to uplift and spotlight? That includes like people you've worked with on your teams, or people that you just kind of surround yourself in this community that you'd like to spotlight?
Terrance and I both know Crystal Kaiza, who is one of the most brilliant filmmakers right now. Like Crystal just got 40 under 40 for Doc NYC, like just got funding from Tribeca. She made a beautiful short film called Edgecomb, and intentionally just documents, Black communities. Is just brilliant in terms of like her process and her execution. And Terrance and I know her by way of like Jacob Burns and Sundance Ignite. The three of us were all Sundance Ignite fellows. And I'm really excited to see how Crystal's career continues.
And do you mind talking a little bit about what that fellowship was like?
Yeah, so I was a Sundance Ignite Fellow in 2019. So as part of that fellowship, I got to go and attend the Sundance Film Festival for 2019. And I also was matched with the industry mentor, which happened to be Heather Ray. And what was really cool at Dee Rees was on the jury for that selection process. So like I got to meet her at Sundance 2019 and like or be like, hey Kai, like I remembered your application. And just like, wait, you know who I am, which is kind of crazy. And then we had like a convening and work in progress screening as part of our fellowship. And then a really nice thing through that fellowship, I was able to go to the Sundance Doc and Edit Lab in the summer of 2019. So I got to see A Rough Cut of Time, which is a beautiful film by Garrett Bradley. At that lab also was Loida Limbaugh's Through the Night, which is edited by Malika, who's a phenomenal editor. So that was a really great, and I'm also a part of a community called Next Doc Collective, which is a collective of young documentary filmmakers of color across the US, which is led by Bowen and Darian, who are people I probably text daily to be like, hey, this is what's going on. This is the process in my project. Like, do you all know any funders who might be interested in XYZ? And is a really awesome community of folks. So definitely my sort of film community has been born out of Next Doc and folks that I've met through the Sundance Ignite program.
That's amazing. I was there that year. I was there 2019. I wish we knew each other.
I know. That was like the year of Last Black Men in San Francisco.
Yep. I saw Clemency there.
Yes. Also Adam, which I think you all probably programmed as well, played. And that was really cool to see at the library there in Sundance. So
yeah, that was a fun year. I mean, it's cold as shit. It is so cold up there, but it was good to be in that community and kind of just like see what that's like. And I was so thrilled that Clemency won the grand jury prize. Chinoye being the first Black woman to win that prize. And that movie is just like so good. It's so good. Terrance, what about you?
Well, I was there the year before, 2018. But it was a really great time. And that year, Ramel Ross was there with Hale County, which I think is like another film that really just changed a lot of the game for me. And even I think watching his film really taught me how to combine narrative with my style at the time, which was very more experimental in approach. And I think that the biggest thing that I've taken away, because I don't really have, a lot of communities in the sort of organization sense, but I rely a lot on my community. I wouldn't be the filmmaker I am without, the people who just kind of took me under their wing. Karen Rose Brewing, who's an executive producer and producer on Hyphen Ship. And then the executive producer of a film I'm working on now, his name is Keith F. Miller Jr., an up-and-coming novelist and educator and project planner in Savannah, Georgia. They are like my, they're like my brother, my big sister. Like they come in, they help me get it done. They shoulder to cry on and all the things, but Karen always has a saying, and she says, don't let them convince you don't know how to make your movie. And then she says, remember, you're not out here by yourself. And those are always two things that I just hold on to whenever I go onto any set.
That's beautiful. And I've said this in the Q&A for Black Family Matters, but I love seeing this kind of group of you, Elegance, Chester, Javon, Jess Snow, like all of y'all always working together. It's so great.
We're like all in each other's credit.
Exactly. I noticed that last year when we were programming. I was like, wait, I see their name there and their name there. It's just like, I just love seeing this community of filmmakers just make this excellent work and lift each other up. It's a very, very beautiful thing. They were supposed to be as part of this panel, but they're here in spirit. They got business to do. Anyone else in terms of like Black film communities, people that you've worked with? And awesome, Robin.
Yeah, Amanda Jones is a composer that I met at a Netflix party when I first moved to LA. And she's on one of those amazing lists and was just nominated for an Emmy. And she did music for my docuseries Passing. And then she also did music for $2. And she's just been incredible. And I also just did a short for Hulu and used a Black female editor named Taylor Mason, who I met at Sundance this past year. And she was also super dope. And so I'm always trying. I'm like, give me all the Black queers, please. Yes. Everybody on my set. I don't think this last shoot I did, I don't even think we had, maybe there was one white dude. So I'm like, okay, the tables are turning. Look out.
If anyone's watching this who's a Black Verite editor, please hit me up. I would love to collaborate with more Black editors for sure. Because I don't know if other people,
I have the whole list for you.
If other people find, like, I feel like I know a lot of Black filmmakers who are like directors and like DPs, but like on the editing side, I definitely need to be introduced into more folks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm also a member of the Black Girls Doc Mafia, which is a dope organization. I'm Brown Girls Doc Mafia, which is like, I don't even know, 1,000 members strong. So it's real dope.
Yes, amazing. I'm loving this. Anyone else? Any Black film communities or people that you've worked with that you want to spotlight?
Go ahead, Seyi.
There's a group I'm connected to. It's mostly filmmakers of color, but it's open to everyone. It's called the Diverse Filmmakers Alliance. It comes out of New York City, and so we just support each other in terms of looking at like treatments, edits and different things like that. And they've been really informative and helpful in my process. And I think, as was said before, like we need community to do this work. And so a lot of times it's like connecting with people that meet at different fellowships that I'm a part of. And it always feels like it's very grassroots when I do.
That's great. That's amazing.
I was just going to speak because as I forgot to mention somebody who I recently kind of got connected with. His name is Jonathan Aubrey Lewis. He's a filmmaker. And he did a short film that won the AT&T sort of program that they do, or with like, it's like a partnership with Amazon. And so it's on Amazon right now, and it's a short called Sojourn. But a friend saw that and sent it to me, and that was like the first time I ever saw myself in another filmmaker. It was almost like literally, it was like I just felt like I was watching a mirror version of Hype and Chip, and it was really in other films that I'd done. So it was really incredible, and we got to connect, and we just shared so much. We had so much in common with our background, both being queer, coming from conservative Christian homes, his dad being a pastor. But I absolutely love his work, and since connecting, I just consider him like a brother. And so it was just really incredible because I think I went through a lot of my film career feeling like a black sheep, and kind of like, seeing other really dope artists, but not really feeling like I could fit in. And after I saw his work, I just felt super validated, and it's been a really great relationship since, because we just kind of, we kind of feed off one another.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering too, because it's kind of in the same vein as the last question, something that's really difficult for all filmmakers, especially at this independent level, is finding funding. So I'm wondering if there are any like really dope grants or any dope kind of like funding organizations that y'all know of that have helped you out in the past, that you can speak on, that can, help other filmmakers who are looking for funding and looking for resources to get money for their films. If any at all. It's okay if no one has anything.
Money, the most important question. I think transparency around the budget you actually raise versus the budget you want to be able to pay people, and what favors people are willing to do for you is a very real thing.
Absolutely.
I can say for Queenie, I think it was the actual real money we got for the project was around $8,000. Sisters in Cinema, which is an organization run by Yvonne Welbon, who's one of the executive producers, put up money. Most recently, we got a post-production grant by If Then, and we're in a post-production lab through them, and they put up money. And then Next Doc, which is that collective that I'm a part of, put up money for that project as well. And those are all relationships that have been built over time. Documentary is very much a space where it's like people have to kind of like see you on the scene and like trust that you're able to finish a project, right? People are giving you thousands of dollars, and even on narrative, that's like a whole different side of it. And with documentary, I think the trust is making sure that like folks know they're participants and they're like going to deliver the film of like what they think is going to happen, because anything can happen. Like hopefully folks have watched the film Queenie by now, but like the outcome of that film is not what I wrote in the treatment or what I thought was going to happen. And like you have to have funders who are like believing in you as an artist. Like I think my interest right now is connecting with funders who are interested and supporting me as an artist and not being so project specific, right? Because when things are project specific, if the project changes, you know, the funder can be like, okay, we're not interested in you anymore. Or like, you know, things change, like with COVID, like, you know, folks were trying to shoot projects like at XYZ time, and like that has now changed. So like that would be really bogus if a funder pulled out and was like, hey, like your project's not moving along. Like I knew you thought XYZ money was coming. Well, it's not anymore. Like what type of system are we creating? So I'm very much interested in partnering with folks who like want to be funding me for like the longevity of my career, which I think is something that's really important in like making sure these are folks that understand like my values and my ethics and like my practice and my methodology. So that's kind of the three major organizations. And like, sometimes it's like, you know, one funder can be like, hey, I know this. And unfortunately in documentary, there are some big funds that are invite only. So it's like, if you're not at a certain level, like you don't even know that this money exists, or like, will this person even open up a blind email from you? Or like, you kind of have to be verified by XYZ place to end up being able to speak at another place. So unfortunately, that system does still exist, but I think I'm trying to actively work to be like, hey, this is the track record of projects that I have. Like, I don't want to walk into every email or meeting and be like, hey, you know, like I used to be a producer at CBS News and I have the Emmy, or like I've been supported by Sundance. Like, unfortunately, Black folks a lot of times have to be like, this is my resume credential of like things that I've done, which is just like, I know why people aren't dealing with that.
Exactly.
Like, at all.
Exactly.
So just in recap, so like Sundance, Next Doc, Cartoon Quinn are some folks who have like supported my projects, which I'm really fortunate for.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about finding people that want to support your career, want to support your growth, want to support you moving forward. I love that. I think that's very important for people to find. That's very, very important. Anybody else?
I'll also add in the way I've been able to really fund my projects and sustain myself as an artist has been looking at like the Laundromat Project, which comes out of New York City, and being able to get money through them in terms of my social practice, as my social justice as an artist, and the type of films and community projects that I do, and taking that money from that fellowship to make art projects, or even like the local arts that come out of the different boroughs, such as the Bronx Council on the Arts. And they've really supported a lot of the work I've done, either in the Bronx or through the Bria Award for just who I am as an artist. And I've seen like those types of fellowships, or the Leslie Lohman Museum has been really the way of like building relationships and having my work continue, because there are all those caveats if you apply to like a ITBS or whatever else, that you have to be in a certain caliber to even be considered, when we're all making great work and we just need to be funded as artists who are impacting our communities in a long-term way, right? And so finding funders who believe in our longevity and in the work that we do, it's really what allows me and us to sustain. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking earlier about those stereotypes, because I did just watch Ethnic Notions, and also the documentary Disclosure is on my mind. What are some queer, Black, and trans stereotypes that you've seen in media that you specifically like to squash with your work? for me is very specific. Not just, this isn't the only one, but it's the one that comes to mind. Gay Black man who is larger and who is an accessory to a white person as the best friend, who is at the same time over-sexualized and at the same time under-sexualized, and also can sing. There are people who can, it's not like a knock to the performers who do that, it's a knock to the mostly like white writers who write those characters and really only see us that way. Like, I used to be 220 pounds, so when I would walk into an audition room and they were like, can you sing though? And I couldn't, it was just like, so you're worthless, so you are worth nothing because these are the roles for you. So I'm wondering, for y'all, what are some stereotypes that you've seen that you specifically just want to squash with your work and just like slay?
I'm gonna just say, for me, it's just this idea that we can't love one another, specifically as like Black queer men. I'm a, like, similar to what Nyala was saying, I'm a big love story kind of guy. I love love stories. I love romance and just tenderness. And I think a lot of times, you know, watching queer coming of age films, I don't often get to see Black men loving other Black men on screen, or even just like two people of color. And not that, like, you know, there's anything to an interracial relationship, but I think that everybody that I've seen who does an interracial relationship feels like they're doing it for the first time, and like, we don't see enough of this. And I'm like, no, I actually have only seen that. Like, right. And it actually would be really cool just to see what a relationship between, you know, and one that also highlights the joy too. And so that's something, and then that also has like people of color behind the scenes, like, yes, because you'll get sometimes really beautiful Black queer coming of age films, and then sometimes, you know, you look up who did it, and it, you know, it's this white man from Nebraska, and you're like, well, yeah, what? And so that's something that I specifically want to address in the work that I do moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah, Seyi.
For me, especially with Afro Mystic, is really looking that we are the creation of the divine, and that we are loved, and that there's a place for us in spirituality. Because I see too many stories and too many stereotypes that, oh, you know, we're demonic, and, you know, we're, you know, the list goes on. And I'm like, that is not the reality of my practice or my spirituality. And so really broadening the focus of like, we are healthy and thriving. We're leaders, we're heroes in our spiritual practice, and that we have a right to get up every day and not be worried about who we are. So really like breaking back this to really support people to be like, oh, I'm perfect the way that I am. And so that's really something I've been actively doing, and also looking at that there's joy to being Black and absolutely trans and gender non-conforming, and our life is only about murder. That's part of it, but we have a full life and things that we get to do in that life. So like doing that in my work.
Amen. I'll do Sheldon and then Nyla.
Yeah, I so echo that. I just want to see stories that are about the many complexities of what it means to be Black and queer or non-binary or whatever the case is, because so much of our characters are centered around white people or centered into supporting someone else's story that's not our own. And every time you see our stories, you got Black families hating on their gay kids or trying to make them like into something else. And you never really see like, what is it like for a kid to be like processing what it's like to be gay, and a family that's loving their child. And like, my family has been so supportive of me and who I am. And so it would be a disservice to be like, that's not how, you know, totally. It's not always what it's like, but it's beautiful to see what that's like, because, you know, maybe watching that will give someone, and, you know, give someone like some kind of footprint or like a blueprint to how you like would even handle this, instead of growing up not knowing about who you are until you're an adult, or knowing how to take care of your, you know, how to love your family members until 2020. You know, like having these conversations.
I have a response to that. I want to hear from everybody else though, but I just wanted to throw that out there, Desmond. If we can circle back to what Sheldon.
Yeah, absolutely. Nyla.
I definitely agree with what both of them, Sheldon said and Seyi said. I think it's very interesting because for me, I always like to say, and you guys can say that I coined this, but I always like to say that we're like in a trans renaissance on film, and like it's been happening within the last 5 years where there's been like more expansive stories than, let's say, the trans woman getting killed on Law and Order because she tricked a guy. So when I always think of cinema, I always think of, in storytelling, I always think of like breaking those stereotypes, but I also think about what did I need to see as a child to like help me along? Because a lot of times when I grew up, a lot of the stuff I was watching were, and I was trying to relate to, were white women, cis women, you know, and I would always try to like kind of match myself in that. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of Carrie Bradshaw, you know, maybe, you know, like I'm kind of Tony from Girlfriends, you know, like always trying to like fit myself in there. So I think that, and you know, a lot of times when they meet trans women who are like doing something different than what they've seen, they think of them as the exception. But I also want to highlight that, you know, like there's a lot of exceptions and there's, you know, it's more than you think. And also we need to see that, like we need to see like trans people living just the most boring everyday life, you know, like, because we don't see that. I remember, I won't mention, but I remember, and it's a popular festival actually, but a critique of my film that they gave me, because I had a friend who knew someone there, and they were just like, you know, they thought my film was going to be something different, you know, and I asked, and I was just like, so what do you mean? And they were like, well, we don't like, there's no like obvious transness about the film, you know?
Wow.
And that echoes a lot of people's relation to trans cinema, you know? I'm making my thesis film, like, you know, a lot of like critique from my professors, no shade, was like, why isn't she struggling with her transness? And how does this guy love her? You know, how does he love her? Like, how is he like dealing with this? Like, how is he handling this? And I'm like, you know, like, I mean, yeah, we be getting killed, you know, the guys be killing us, but also, love, you know, there's love that happens, and healthy relationships that happen. And we need to like, trans women do get murdered, Black trans women in particular, but we need to work on changing that narrative in film and cinema and TV shows, because that's how that continues to happen. Absolutely. You know, because people who love trans people, they don't see themselves on TV either. You know, they don't see it as normal. So like, how can we change that paradigm if we don't show it in cinema and in film? Just trans people being loved and trans people living very simple, basic lives that are not sensationalized, like, oh my God, hooker got killed, she's a dude, you know, dun dun dun, like that whole narrative, you know, like we need to be more expansive. So with me and my film, I was really inspired by Chantal Ackerman, you know, and I'm not even gonna attempt to say the film, but it was Jean Dumais, and it was about the housewife and like how like the just like how bored she was, you know, like the simplicity of her life. And like I'm really gravitating towards that, because we don't have that like simplicity of like trans experience and trans lives, you know. It's always like getting killed by a guy because you tricked him, you know.
And it's interesting. It's so interesting that you say that people didn't like your film for that reason. That is why we loved your film. All those reasons that people didn't like it, we absolutely loved it. So again, thank you for making it. And I'm so excited for people to check it out. And to see the love in that couple was just amazing. And you're right, I really had not seen that before. And it really did buck my expectations, but in the best way possible, you know? And so thank you.
Not to take up time, but like that was a critique I got too. They were like, it's too lovey-dovey. And I'm like, exactly. That's what
No, Nyala, I totally hear you on the idea of not being like, I'm making film to break stereotypes, but wanting to see a certain reality. So like I have to pitch to Robin. I know Sydney Washington is in your film, $2. So I think it's just like freaking hilarious and a Black Brooklyn gay icon. And I'm like, you need to write a rom-com that features Sydney and somebody like that.
Oh, don't worry, I was just texting her this morning. She's coming out here in a couple weeks, so
I'm like, that is the Black femme queen right there. That needs to be in a feature film.
Right?
So yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I would just like Sheldon said, I would echo everything that everyone has said and add that I would love to just see like a Black masculine of center character that is not modeling toxic masculinity. You know, because they're like, oh, we need a Black butch character or a Black stud. Okay, great. And then next thing you know, she's a pimp. Or
I made you think of Britt Nichols, and I know she just got a project like greenlit, so like I'm excited to see what she does. Yeah.
Yes, me too. She's hilarious.
Terrance,
yeah. The only thing I was just gonna say to everybody's point, actually, I think everybody kind of touched on it, but like I think film has the ability to engage audience's imagination in just a different way, and I don't think we often take advantage of that enough. And I think a lot of times we're always trying to recreate reality, but I think specifically for a lot of Black bodies, like we're steeped in reality, you know, more than we probably want to be. And so what does it mean to, you know, and we were talking about Mudbound earlier, and I remember a moment where my mother watched this scene where I think they took the Black character and they were about to, you know, dismember him, and my mom just like breathed and was like, and I could feel the fear in her, and I was like, man, that sucks that she's watching that, and I know she's thinking about what if that was my child, and you know, what does it mean to as content creators and as storytellers to give our audiences a different experience of even being able to imagine a world that doesn't necessarily exist just yet, and not necessarily needing to be sci-fi, but you know, to not just sitting and being with other people and with characters, and being able to experience moments that, you know, you could argue this wouldn't happen in real life, or this isn't how it really is. But you say, yeah, but what if we can move towards a future that looks more like this? And just being able to imagine our futures differently, I think, is a really powerful tool that that film can give us if we, you know, lean into it more.
Absolutely.
To add on that, I just wanted to say, they never asked this question from white narratives and stories. They exist in multitudes. So do we. And for many of us, especially queer people who are trying to put together the puzzles of like what it means to be this and that, and you're trying to find like media and magazines and docs and all of the like, I need to watch all of this so I can learn more about myself and how to live and exist and be. Like, we need to have as many pieces as possible to be able to put that story together for ourselves, so we have something to like that's, you know, that we can feel, that we can touch, that's you know, that gives us it gets us a little bit closer to ourselves.
Absolutely. Amen. Last question. I can't believe it's already almost over. I could talk to y'all for like 2 hours. Let's all get a coffee or something. Last question, because I want everyone to be so interested and invested in your careers beyond what's in the festival right now. What y'all working on? What's in the future for all of y'all?
So everyone's being shy. I'll go. So on October 22nd, I'm part of the Bite Size Halloween series, which is going to be on Hulu. So it's called Huluween. And I wrote a short film called This Old House about an aging diva who wakes to find that her house has been put on the real estate market. And it's starring Lavelle Roby, who was a Black actress that was like in Valley of the Dolls. And she's incredible, 80-year-old, just amazing, like LA icon. Yes. So that's coming out this month.
Awesome. Dope. I'll go in order this time. Let's go, Nyla.
So I just finished writing a short, and it's called The Roommates, and it's a play on very old school film, which is called The Apartment. But basically, it's about a Black trans woman and her roommate, who is this Black guy from the South, and he falls in love with his roommate who's trans, and he confronts all of the stereotypes that, you know, he associates with it, you know, like societal expectation, you know, fetishizing her. And the next project that I'm working on is a feature film, and it's tentatively called At Night on Christopher Street, and it's based on a true story about a friend of mine who was a teenage sex worker who decided to take back power against the Johns and pretend to be vice cops and legitimately rob Johns by forcing them to, you know, like sticking them up basically.
Wow.
And it's a very like interesting story because during that time, a very popular New York senator, he was like had a whole campaign with a Southern Christian group fighting Harvey Milk High School because they just got funding then. So that kind of happens in the backdrop of it. And we just follow these two trans women who, as they're you know, taking back power from Johns, who, you know, were taking advantage of teenage trans sex workers.
Wow. I'm looking forward to all of these. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Seyi?
What I'm currently working on is Afro Mystic. It's the first feature-length film that's queer and trans Orisha storytelling. And it looks like animating, affirming Orisha stories around gender fluidity and queerness. And it's also following 5 priests and practitioners of Yoruba spirituality in Brazil, Nigeria, and the US. And I'm also working with folks as part of the Black Trans Prayer Book to turn that into feature-length film.
Oh, amazing. Kai?
I've been documenting some young folks and educators in Chicago who have been working to get a park renamed. They had been organizing for about 3 years. I made a short about them in 2018, which earned me the Sundance Ignite Fellowship. And then in the summer, in reaction to all the racial reckoning that's been happening, the Chicago Park District decided to hold like an emergency meeting. And now if everything goes through, that park will now be named Anna and Frederick Douglass, which is really amazing for like some young folks to be like, they started this grassroots campaign in 5th grade and now they're 8th graders, and be like, hey, we most likely will be like the first folks in the country to ever have like led a renaming of a park, which is something that's really awesome.
I'm constantly blown away by kids. These kids today, I'm telling you, they are about to change the world. I'm so excited to see that. All of these, oh my gosh. Terrance?
I often, you know, start by saying after I did Hyphen Chip, I didn't think I was going to make films again, and kind of experienced just a lot of depression, I think, after that film, and was really craving just more light and more joy and more play. And I found my way over to a book by a really close friend of mine, Keith F. Miller Jr., who is now the executive producer of the project I'm about to talk about. But he made this unpublished manuscript called Pretty, which is almost a 300-page manuscript of this queer coming-of-age story of this young Black boy in Savannah, Georgia. And I just fell in love with it and reached out to him about developing it into a short film, which we then embarked on in 2019, received funding from the Daye Foundation and Spike Lee. And that film, again, is just situated with spending time with this young Black boy, you know, at the community pool, and you know, this kind of like a relationship that he kind of strikes up with this other boy in that space. And we're literally just spending time with them. And it's given me so much joy. And Keith had a quote that really was sort of the North Star of the writing for that film, which is when Black and brown boys play, they heal. And so just wanting to see more play on screen, and seeing, you know, what these two boys do when they encounter vulnerability that takes them into the deep end, so to say. So we've developed that project as an animated film since COVID, literally a week before filming shut down our original. And so the exciting thing though is.
Wait, did he freeze? No, Terrance. The exciting thing is what? The exciting thing is what? No. No. I'm going to give him like a couple seconds to see if he comes back. Oh, no. This technology, yo, I swear. I really hope that he can come back and tell us what the exciting thing is. But if he can't, thank y'all so much for being here today and being part of this discussion. This has been amazing. You know, it's been a taxing couple weeks, you know, doing all this stuff for the festival, but this just brought me so much life. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to hear all your stories and all of your opinions and to hear all the support that we can just have for each other. And if y'all are watching this now, you have everyone's name who was on this panel. Put your money where your mouth is and support these amazing and wonderful artists. Terrance, yes. What was the exciting thing that you were going to say?
There are no, like, just with what we want to do, there's so few films in the animated space, you know, that just really depict the kind of love story we're just trying to tell. And it's been super exciting to, you know, kind of do that, see what it looks like to bring a Hayao Miyazaki to the hood type situation, and just kind of have fun with that.
Word. Amen. Well, thank you all again so much. This has been quite amazing. And again, it could be 2 hours, it could be a couple days, and I would never, ever get tired of talking with y'all. So thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you so much. And thank you for your amazing work in the festival this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peace, everyone.
Bye. Again, thank you so much for joining us for the Centering Black, Queer, and Trans Voices in Film. I'm serious. You have all these people's names. Find them and find ways to support their work. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Desmond Thorne. Check out our website, newfest.org, to find out more about the 120 plus films in our festival, as well as our year-round programming. See y'all later.